I do not recall quite as much drama about any other camera announcement. It was polarizing, riveting. I even made a pretend soap opera about the whole launch. The Nikon D500, considered a godsend to some, and an anachronism to others. What do I think? Let's roll up our sleeves and get started. Oh yeah, one thing that I say in all of my reviews. This is my review, from my perspective, based on how I use my cameras. You're always free to agree and disagree, but understand now that I'm testing this camera on the basis of the photography that I do. And I enjoy a great variety of photography, so I don't shoot test targets and I don't shoot a lot of video outside of my little studio here. There are already a great number of D500 reviews available. Some were very quick to the party, but I take my time. I make sure that I have field experience with the camera, and I always encourage you to form your own judgments toward this camera or any other gear, either from watching or reading multiple reviews, or from your own hands-on experience. Okay, wait a minute. I have a confession to make. When I first saw the D500 announcement, I skipped past the marketing speak, and even the frame rate and the available ISO range. What was I looking for, you ask? Let me explain. These are the cameras that I shoot most often: V1, V1, D810, D800. Believe it or not, there's one fairly large thing in common across these four cameras, and it comes right out of their derriere. Yes, I mean the battery. It seems almost trivial, but when I'm running away for the weekend, it's one less thing to think about if I can put this in the D500 or in any of these other cameras. And then I only need one of these. I was pleased to see that the D500 can put this same battery right up its bottom panel. While it would not have been a deal breaker if the D500 took some other battery, I know many of you have more than one camera, so you totally get it. Anytime that I can share components, like the battery, between cameras, I am a happy SnapChick. So when I saw that the D500 takes this NENL15, I breathed a happy sigh, and then I scrolled back up to the top to check out those important specifications. Okay, I know you're thinking, quit it. Quit talking about the batteries. I want to know how this camera performs. Well, before I get into detail, I can tell you with only a couple of gripes that the D500 delivers. It goes, it gets the shot, it shoots, A to Z and back again. It's smooth, it's sharp, it's wild, it's fast, it gets shit done. So beyond the battery discovery, my next key criteria for the D500 required having one in my hand. I'm not much of a forum jockey, and I don't normally spend a lot of time talking about cameras that I haven't used yet. So now that I have been using the camera for a couple of weeks, I can share my experience. Let's start with what I like about it. The first thing that I noticed is the grip. It's quick to grab, and it's the deepest grip of any Nikon DSLR that I've used. It begs to be picked up with one hand, even with some heavier lenses. There's a lot to hold on to here over on the side. I didn't break out the ruler or anything, but even a quick visual comparison shows that there's more to hold on to here than the D810 or the older D300S. So those of you who think that you would use this camera for a lot of fast action, the D500 is begging to be grabbed and waved around as you track birds, soccer players, or other fast action. Having a nice deep grip, it may sound trivial, but a camera that is comfortable to hold, that you actually like having in your hands, is a camera that you're going to want to use. Let's spend some time on speed and responsiveness. Speed to focus, speed to the shot, and speed to the next shot, in any light. It is that combination of features that separates the men from the boys. I've used cameras that are fast, but can't focus well. And I've used cameras that can focus very quickly in any situation, but then they never seem to be in a hurry otherwise. This is also one of the most misunderstood aspects of cameras like the D500 or its predecessor, the D300S. I get a lot of mail that says that Nikon didn't need a new D7200 or other DX camera. But if you've used a D300S, a D3, 4, 5, even a D2 series Nikon, you know what I'm talking about. With those cameras, it's point, focus, mirror up, shot, mirror down, and ready for the next shot, all in the blink of an eye, in daylight, low light, and almost no light. I love all of the cameras on these shelves behind me, and even the ones that aren't there anymore, but when it comes to being in a hurry and getting the shot no matter what, it's a smaller, more elite group of equipment that comes to mind. Is the D500 in this category? Yes, I am pleased to say absolutely. This is the unicorn of current generation DX cameras that many of us, myself included, thought we wouldn't see. Point, focus, shoot, track, shoot, shoot, shoot. It truly delivers the advertised 10 frames per second. In fact, often when in continuous high, I was getting 2 shots at a time, like this, because my finger wasn't fast enough to get off the shutter release. In slower moving situations, I often backed the camera down to continuous low, just to avoid all of the accidental pairs of images that I was creating. All of that being said, even fast cameras that are capable of many frames per second can sometimes be fooled by what's under the focus point, especially in low light. And they can get, tripped up and hesitate to take the photo. There's nothing worse than a fast camera that just won't giddy up and go when you feel like it should be focused and taking the photo already. The D500, so far, has given me no frustrating, oh my gosh, just take the picture moments, even in low light. Speaking of which, let's get into high ISO performance. I used this camera in a range of lighting situations. I was amazed by the usability of the images taken at higher ISO sensitivities. When shooting around my local science center in its darkened environments, I was happy shooting quite far up the ISO range. This photo was taken at ISO 51200, the highest native ISO sensitivity. It has quite a bit of grain, but it's not really objectionable for me, at least in this situation. A photo for my own use. Now let's move to my studio, where I took some low-key portraits. This photo was taken at ISO 3200. There's noise, but there is a significant amount of detail, and I would feel comfortable shooting here for professional purposes at a wedding, where I'm probably the most conservative when it comes to noise in my images. I'd definitely shoot higher up the range, though, depending upon the genre. Concert photography, for example. A little more grain is acceptable, and I'd happily run up the range to ISO 8000 and beyond. In fact, combining the speed of the camera with the fantastic high ISO performance, there's an interesting aspect. The D500 really blurs the line between DX and FX. Now, it's a DX sensor, let me make that clear. However, one of the primary reasons people tell me that they adopt an FX camera is the low light capability. Well, these are good times for DX and FX. You can shoot up the ISO range with confidence. There are samples all over the internet, and I'm posting a few of my own. What's usable for you may be different than me, so form your own judgments, but I can readily say that we've never seen a DX camera that performs like this before, and it will give most available FX cameras a run for their money in high ISO performance and other categories as well. Another thing that separates the D500 from much of the DX pack, past and present, is the robustness and durability of the body. Always protect your gear and avoid exposure to the elements when you can, but when you are in a questionable weather situation, you want a camera that delivers. Let me explain. One of the places that I take my camera, and it's almost become mandatory for my gear reviews, is the Grand Canyon. It's a fabulous landscape, and it's dense with wildlife. Every trip is different, every season is different, and frankly, I'm there often, new camera or not. One pleasant surprise soon after the D500's spring release was snow at the Grand Canyon. It was a perfect surprise. New camera in my hand, durable 17-55 f2.8 DX lens, clouds, fog, birds, canyon, trees, and snow. What a combination. There were so many shots I wanted to grab in this northern Arizona winter grand finale. There was no time to do anything but leap out of the car, run into the woods, and start snapping. Did my brand new D500 get wet? Yes, it did. I was careful with it, covered it whenever possible, but yes, snow hit my new baby, and she did great. No issues. I didn't let water or anything pool up on it, but I also made sure to get my shots without hiding in the car or anything like that. I could go on all day about my joy of shooting with the newest Nikon neck hanger, but I know you want to hear about things that maybe I wish were a little bit different. So let's talk about that. For starters, speed of the playback button. The D500 is out in front of the pack in the category of speed. Sometimes I'm reviewing an image in a fraction of a second so that I can just verify the look that I want, and then I need to be on to the next shot. The playback button on the D500 just has that tiny extra bit of wait time. Maybe that's something that Nikon can improve in a firmware update. In general, I like that the D500 has adopted a similar control layout to the D810, D300S, and other top-tier Nikon cameras. One surprise with the Nikon D750 was that it didn't have this arrangement. I take this control layout seriously because I'm often shooting with more than one camera, and I like it when they have the same control layout. With the D500, it's all there, except this button and this button, mode and ISO, have mysteriously changed places. Now I believe in change, and change is often good. The new D5 also has this new layout, but I'm still getting used to that small but significant difference between the D810 and the D500. Let's talk about this little guy, the XQD card. The D4 had it, the D5 has the option for it, the D500 has it along with an SD card slot. Is the XQD the new compact flash card? Opinions vary. At least for now, XQD is more expensive, and it's tough to get a card reader at this point, which makes it kind of an annoyance to me, at least for now. The practical use of the XQD card is delivering, though. It helps keep your buffer clear, and it's been handling 4K video without issue. One very polarizing aspect of the D500 is that it does not have pop-up flash. Some say it doesn't need one because it's a pro camera. Others, like me, say that it would be nice to have. Oh, hi there, D500. Show off. Now, there are plenty of smaller flash options. I have this older SB400, which is not a big deal to drop into my bag. My last gripe about the D500 is a bit less tangible. We didn't know for many years when or if something like this would show up. We've had 3 long-term resident FX cameras in the lab here in the past few years. 2 are still here, and we've also had the D750 and DF here for short visits. The D500 is lean and fast and rivals several of those 5 FX cameras. Personally, I would and did get this camera over the D750, irrespective of the difference in sensor size. And I truly wish the DF behaved more like the D500 in terms of overall speed and focus capability. I love my D810, and the D500 shares many of the D810's refinements over the D800. Let's move on to a couple gripes that I have heard from others. Sensor size. Some folks don't like crop sensor DSLRs. For me, sensor size does not make the camera. The overall capabilities and how they gel with my style make the camera. FX does open more lens possibilities, especially in certain areas like wider angle prime lenses. When I'm hiking, I like best to go with a camera and a prime. I wish Nikon had a small wide angle prime for DX. This may make me pick up the D810 with my 24mm prime instead of the D500 the next time I'm heading into the Grand Canyon or somewhere else where weight and size is a key factor. But those are also situations where I might bring this instead. One popular D500 item to discuss is the price. Some are saying it's too expensive. You could spend $1,500 less on a D3300 and have a solid DX shooter. Even the entry-level DX cameras deliver on image quality. But you would not get the speed, frames per second, build quality, and low light capability. That might be perfectly fine for you though. Not everyone would utilize the speedy capabilities of the D500. One final item that I want to discuss in this review is battery life. I still need to do some more testing on this, but side by side with the D810 here in the studio doing videos like this one, the D500 is falling short on battery life. Even dialing it down from 4K to standard 1080p, shooting a 30-minute show alongside the D810 will report 60% battery remaining, with the D500 at 25% or lower, and then have a dead battery a few minutes later. And I've tested different batteries, but I'm still seeing this issue. So if you have a D500, let me know what you've observed. It may be that I either have a one-off problem or that I just need to do some more testing. Non-video and non-live view has been no problem from a battery life standpoint. Okay friends, the bottom line is that the D500 blows me away with its speed, handling, and high ISO capabilities. Is it the camera for you? The answer is, it depends. For me, it's a no-brainer. Much of the same capabilities of the D810 in a lean, fast package that's easy to hold and to shoot with. It does great with wildlife and fast action, but don't forget that it's plenty capable for landscapes and anything else that you see in front of you that you want to capture. While sports and wildlife photographers may take to the D500 like peanut butter takes to jelly, I personally don't consider the D500 to be a sports and wildlife camera. It's a camera that excels, period. It performs with people in action and animals, with landscapes, and in the studio, even at the museum. It's expensive and it's the king of the DX domain. It's a camera, and it's a really good camera. And if you'll let a DX camera into your heart here in 2016, you might even find that it's a great camera. It's refined, fun, and fast to shoot with while offering 4K video, class-busting speed, and basically every feature that Nikon has ever offered across the DSLR range. So now you might be saying, come on SnapChick, what about the flexible screen and this feature and that feature? It's all good stuff. And if it's important to you, then it's a decision maker for you. I can only speak for me and what I need to get things done, both as a shooter and a SnapChick. It hits the high notes for me so far, but learning and adopting it is also an ongoing process. That means you'll see in-depth videos from me in the coming weeks, separate walkthroughs of the body and the menus, more field work with the D500, and plenty in the studio as well. And I'll be having fun doing it, because underlining everything that I do here is my love of photography. And this camera is easy and fun to use, which is kind of what it's all about.